What we have here is our standard Aircaster rigging control handle. It's a unit that you can pick up and carry around by hand. It has flow control valves for each of the Aircasters. It has a pressure regulator, and it has an incoming ball valve that you can use to turn air on and off to the system. Once the system is energized with air, generally recommend you running at about 80 psi into your system, even though the Aircaster only uses about 35, 36 psi. The unit, as you can see, as we turn the flow control up, you can tell that this air bearing begins to inflate, and if you can hear it, it's leaking air through the communication holes. This is the experience it'll have in the floor condition and begin to raise this unit off the ground. These are the rest pads. These happen to be lined with UHMW just to protect our nice epoxy floor here in our showroom. But generally the rest pad is just steel, and the load rests steel on concrete. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to put it in its down condition. And as you can see, the steel is resting on the epoxy surface, and the load is actually resting not on the air bearing or Aircaster, but actually on the steel surface here. As I begin to put air to this unit, you'll see it'll begin to inflate and come up off the ground. Now, this is why we use Aircasters in a system of at least 3, generally 4. As you can see, because the load is not centered, I'm actually tipping at an angle here. But if I had it in a system of 3 with a load on it, it would begin to level it out, and we'll show you that in a minute. The other thing that you're going to experience with Aircaster is what's called hop. Hop is a real problem that exists with Aircaster technology. What hop is a condition where you have too light of a load relative to too much air pressure coming in. And as you begin to dial the air down, you can see that I begin to minimize hop. We also design into all of our systems hop tubes that actually are an anti-air dampening device, an anti-hop device to begin to dampen the air out. And now that I've gotten rid of the air, you can see I have near frictionless movement on this Aircaster against the ground with my rest pads up off the ground. The nice thing about our Aircaster technology, only lifting the height that lifts off the ground, is we don't have a situation where a toe can get underneath it to get crushed as this begins to deflate. Because as the unit loses air, this unit will actually deflate and rest back on the ground. In addition to the construction of the Aircaster itself with the rolled edge, the steel back, the right material, it's also critical when we think about the application about the air skid itself. So the first thing about the air skid, again, is the resting pad is resting steel on concrete, not on the Aircaster itself, but rather on the steel frame. And why that matters in particular is it has to do with how we change the bearing out. So let's pretend that we do end up getting a cut in our air bearing, as we call it, a flat tire, and I've got 100,000 pounds sitting on this thing. How am I going to get that load off to get this out of there in order to change out this Aircaster? Well, there's 2 ways that we make this happen. Number one, again, because it's resting on the steel edge, we basically have 2 bolts in the front, and you simply undo these 2 bolts. And because there's no load actually resting on the Aircaster, you're simply able to reach in and slide the unit out on what we call the slide out tray. And then to change the Aircaster out, there's a center bolt. All you do is simply take out the center bolt, remove the Aircaster plenum, get your new one, bring it back in, retighten the unit, and prepare to slide it in the tray. But if you notice, when I took this out, I didn't have to unhook any plumbing. And that's because of our other invention, which is this unit right here, which we call an inlet seal. An inlet seal is something that we make here at our factory. We thermoform this diaphragm, and when you slide the unit in, it forms a plumbingless connection, so when the air is applied to the unit, this plenum actually inflates, creating its own air seal, which allows the air then to flow through the unit and out of the plenum. So to replace this, you simply just put the tray down without removing the load and slide it back in, lining up your 2 holes here with the bolts in, and simply re-bolt the unit to the air skid. We like to joke with our customers, it's going to take you longer to find where your spare part is in your factory than it does to change out one of these units if indeed you got a flat tire along the way. So simply re-secure this, and there you go. You've now completely replaced this plenum in just a matter of minutes, and you're back up and running without having to take the load off.